So I should stop talking about fat Marie.
Okay, we are live.
Awesome.
So I'm going to go ahead and put a little sticky note welcoming people.
What people? I see a 0 up there. Oh, there's 2. There's 2. Let's see who the attendees are. Hi, Kenya and Marlise and Brian and Ophelia and Eric and Tim. That's who I see so far. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll slowly let everybody get on. I recognize a couple from last time. Welcome back.
Who's that Maggie Wolf person?
Oh. They can't talk, Jack, so.
I know, that's why I like it. I can sit here and talk about Maggie and all the time, and she can't say anything back. She can type, though.
Yeah, she can. Okay.
So if you guys are new to this, there's a chat feature. I don't know how from a user standpoint you get to that, but you can put questions in there, and then Sarah will try to interrupt me and ask those questions live. So just kind of look for the chat feature.
There's also, I'm sorry, there's also a poll too, asking if you're currently using flat rate labor pricing. So if you want to fill that out, we just kind of like to get an idea of who is and who is just exploring it, so that we know who our audience is. Okay, well, Jack, there's about a little less than half that registered are on. So if you want to, we'll go ahead and get started. And yeah, we can always, these are always recorded for all the attendees to know. So if you ever want to watch them again, or if you have questions or you missed part of it or have to hop off, we will have it loaded on our website too. Give us about 24 to 48 hours to get that done, but you'll definitely be able to watch it again. So go ahead, awesome. Jack, and take it away.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with a couple of quick notes here. The idea of the Blue Book is to help you overcome obstacles with your customer, as well as making sure that you're charging professional pricing. So several people have seen the webinar that was right before this with Dean Landers, and also saw the one that we did, I think it was just last week, about why you should be charging professional rates. And I'm not going to get into all of that, but the idea with this is to make sure that you're profitable and not just working to have an income, and actually the business can be profitable. And taking a bunch of things into consideration, like liabilities, education, inventory, all of that as you're doing your pricing structure. So what we're going to go over with today is the online Blue Book. And I'm going to share a screen here, and hopefully everybody can see that. I'm going to flip back just to make sure. All right, so if you can't see it, message Sarah. When I'm actually in the presentation, I'm unable to see customer viewers' comments and what you are seeing. I'm looking at the actual screen that you're seeing, and so don't hesitate to have Sarah stop me if you go over it. So one of the things that I've talked with customers over the years, and most of my experience actually comes from working with the appliance repair companies that use this this product. And so the idea of when you go in and you give a customer a price, you can take in, and in the customer's mind, they're sitting there calculating, are they gouging me? Are they looking at the type of home I live in, or the neighborhood I'm in, or the car that's in the driveway, like the Mercedes or whatever, and are they raising my price? And so by using the printed book or the online, which we're going over now, the idea here is that you're giving them all of the information, very transparent in real time. It's all based on the actual part number of the appliance that they're have and that you're working on, and you give that price up front. So the idea here is once you've given them the price, the customer now has a choice. Either you pay me for a service charge to come out and diagnose, or you pay for the repair. Okay, so once we can give that to them and they agree to the repair price, the price is $204. Would you like me to complete the repair for you today? And they say yes. What you've taken off of the table is the phone call 3 hours later that says, hey, I took in and saw that we paid $200 for this repair. I think that's way overpriced. And your first response should be, is the appliance working? And as long as it's working properly at that point, then your next response should be, well, unfortunately, I can't unfix the appliance. We gave the price up front before we did the repair. It was agreed upon, and then we did the repair. So unfortunately, we've completed our portion. We can't unfix it. We can't get our time back. So if there was a pricing issue, you should have addressed that before we did the repair. Okay. So it gives you some nice perks perks probably isn't the right word. It gives you a little bit more leverage when it comes to that that upset person that thinks you overcharged them, because if you overcharged them, they shouldn't have bought it in the first place. So it doesn't give them a leg to stand on at that point. The other thing with it is that we're trying to make sure that we're eliminating all of the other obstacles. What do you charge per hour? We don't charge by the hour, we charge by the job, and we give you that price up front. Okay, so then you have a choice. So when you're presenting, some companies like to do, we waive the service charge with repair, or it's deducted or whatever. My general feeling with that is that it just complicates or muddies the water. So typically what I tell customers is you should present it as an and or. So your choice is to either pay the service charge and we're done, or you can take and do the repair, and that service charge is technically built into that repair price, but you don't have to say that specifically. So either we're going to do the repair today and it's going to be this price, or we're not going to do the repair and it's going to be the service charge, one or the other. Okay, so for this tool, it is mypartshelp.com is our secured web server. So the Appliance Blue Book sits on top of the product that we have called My Parts Help. And that is that's like a part locating tool. Because parts drive the Blue Book pricing, it has to set on top of that has a foundation of where the parts are coming from and how much the parts are going to cost. Okay, so when you log in as a technician, this is the screen that you see. You have your company information in the upper left-hand corner up here above this blue bar. And then to go to the Blue Book page, or to get ready to present to your customer, the technician presentation page, we call the Blue Book page here. You just click on it and it's going to bring that up for you. Okay, so this is now ready to be seen by the customer. So the way that you should look at this is everything is retail. There's no wholesale pricing in here. The parts are marked up. The service is at full price, etc. I was talking with Sarah before we actually started, explaining a little bit between warranty work and COD work in the pricing realm, because we get, at the end of the last session, someone typed in there about warranty pricing. And the reality is warranty pricing is a contract price. You've agreed to that pricing before you start doing the work. So the Blue Book doesn't come into play nearly as much in warranty work as it does for COD work. So COD work and the Blue Book pricing, what you could look at it is suggested retail price. Okay, so this is what we suggest you charge for the repair. Now you can discount that. It includes the cost to acquire a customer, that initial acquisition cost. It includes some money for marketing. It includes money for the cell phone and for your health insurance and for your retirement plan and for the office help and etc. So the idea is that we've taken all of those costs of doing business, and in every single job you have a little bit of every one of those overheads in the total price. So we're going to go ahead and run a quote real quick, just so that you kind of get an idea of how it works. And then we'll go through some different scenarios, and I'll break down all the different elements that are on the page. So we're just quickly going to select a dryer. and we're going to select a Whirlpool brand, and we're going to do an igniter, 279311, search. When you hit search, what it's going to do is it's going to look to see if you have it in inventory. So to do that, you have to connect your inventory to our system. You can do that automatically through Service Desk or ePass, or you can manually upload. In this case, we have these parts in stock. They're on Joe's truck. We have 25 of them. Do you want to use a price that is in the system, or do you want to go get a fresh price from a part distributor? In this case, I want a fresh price, so I'm going to say don't use the inventory price. When I click on that, hopefully, here we go, it's going to go and try to log in. The scrolling bar right here is it's logging into the part distributors. It says that's a valid part number, okay? It is associated to a glow igniter kit, but there's a little drop-down arrow, which means that you have other options as well. So it's a glow igniter kit or a glow igniter kit with flat or round end sensor. Okay, it's available in 2 working days. So if I don't have it in stock, which I do happen to know that I do, then it's going to be available to us in 2 working days. So since it's Wednesday, we won't have it till Friday. So would you like me to come back Friday afternoon, or if you're working on Saturday, or if you want to do it on Monday? But the technician now has this information and doesn't have to call the office, doesn't have to call the part distributor. He can reschedule that next piece of the appointment, all just by clicking through this system. So I'm going to scroll over the little asterisk. This particular part is coming into us out of Day Distributing out of Denver, Colorado. So I just scroll off of that. I click Add. The total for this repair is $267.66. I have the part in stock. Can I complete the repair for you today? So I've just asked for their permission to complete the job, which is now asking them to agree upon that price of $267.66. Okay, so at that point, again, your presentation would be if they're like, no, I'm not sure. It's like, okay, well then I would just need to collect your service charge, and the service charge in this case is $94.95 that we have set in the system for this one. Okay, I'm going to show you a quick breakdown of how the system calculates that. So it has the glow igniter kit, which is a retail price plus markup, because we're having to order the part, inventory the part, carry the part to the customer's house, and they're using our experience to do all of that. So we do a little bit more than suggested retail. I think suggested retail on this price is around $40 or a little over $40. And so marking that up a little bit here is just covering our additional expenses, the cost to get it shipped in to us, all of that. So the idea here is that we're not trying to gouge the customer, but it would be more expensive than them going and getting it themselves, because they're doing all the legwork, they're paying all the shipping, they're doing all the waiting for the part. Okay. The next piece here is this particular repair is assigned to a J13 labor code, which is currently set at 113.65. Okay, and then the last piece of this is the service charge, which is $94.95 for going out and diagnosing. So all of these pieces here added together, if you have the sales tax turned on or set up, you can have sales tax generated. If there's other charges, like they're further out than your normal service area, so you are charge an extra trip fee on top of that, or distance fee on top of that for $20, that all would add in here, and we'll get into how to put that in there here in a few minutes. And then that total price is here, the $267.66 for that repair. Okay. So far, does anybody have any questions? If you do, please type them to Sarah so that she can ask me. When this loads, it's loading off of that actual part number. These pictures are being loaded from the part distributors. So it's doing that in real time. So you can click on different pictures. I should be able to see different ones. Okay, I'm lying to you. Currently, you can't click on them.
While you're trying to click, Jack, we do have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
They asked if this is the price with tax, which you did mention it includes tax, but what tax rate is it? Is it just an average? Is it?
So this is all customizable. So in this case, I did, if you look up here, kind of grayed out, it's exempt. So it doesn't show the tax, but it's based on your taxing jurisdictions. So depending on the state, Some places you have to charge by every different tax district, meaning every city, every zip code, every town can be a different tax rate. You manually set those in here, and then your technician or whoever's doing the quote would have to select the correct town that they're in, and then it will apply it. Some states only charge on parts, some charge on the entire job. So the system will let you break it down however you want. Once you start the quote, though, like this one is now a completed quote, it won't let you go back and add or change that tax. So you have to do it when you first start. So we'll run some more here in just a minute, and I'll try to do some of that tax stuff with you when we get to that. The next common thing with this is to have more than one part on one job. And so the way the system works is it allows you to enter multiple parts. I'm going to do a 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1. You have now exceeded my total knowledge of part numbers. And that's the Whirlpool dryer belt. So we're going to click on that. We're going to select the Whirlpool, load selection. All right, and we're going to add that to the job. Now, the way the system calculates the job is it adds that second part with the markup on the part price. It looks at all the different parts that are on the job and looks at the labor code associated to those. So I'm going to do that here in this little pop-up. And so in this case, the belt is an F12 and the J13 is for the igniter. The J13 is more expensive, so the system defaults to the highest job code based on the parts that are being put in. So in this case, it's going to use the J13, but it only charges one repair rate. And the reason for that is a lot of times you have accessory parts that the appliance is already torn apart. You've already disconnected the power. It doesn't take a lot more labor to put those other pieces in because it's part of your total repair. So you don't need to charge for a whole nother job, okay? Now, with this particular system, I can close this, and I as an experienced technician, know, oh, you know, the igniter goes in from the back, but the belt could just be put in from the front. So it is a little bit more labor. So you can go into the labor code here, adjust that up by one level, hit set, and it's going to add a little bit more labor into that. It's not going to charge for a whole nother job, but you're going to be able to charge a little bit more, okay? So that is one of two ways that technicians can adjust pricing in the field. The second one is in the little detail window where the part prices is. So let's say that you know that this belt is underpriced or overpriced. Let's say it's underpriced. You can simply click on that. You can change that to $30. You can hit save. And in this one specific job, you're going to see here that it raised the price to $30. Okay? So our total is now, it was $328.01, is now $333.96. Now, when you close this, that should automatically update, but when we share the screen, it doesn't always do that. So that has to do, I think, with us sharing this screen, that you're not seeing it automatically update. All right. So that's how, those are the two ways that we give for technicians. Now, at the same time, that rate can be lowered. We don't have it currently restricted. We are building a new version of this program where one of the goals is to be able to restrict how much someone can adjust pricing. So we may make it so either they can't change the pricing at all, or they can adjust it by one labor level, and you as the admin would be able to set those. At least that's the vision of how it's going to work in the new system. Okay.
Jack?
Yes.
It's me again.
Hi, me again.
Hi. Can this be used in Canada, or do you have a version for Canada?
We don't have a separate version for Canada, and it can't. We do have a number of customers in Canada that use it. It requires a little bit more customization on your part, but when you connect this to your part distributor, so let's say that you're buying from Reliable Canada, it's going to take and pull in the Canadian pricing on the parts. So then we just have to kind of look at the labor rates and the service charge to see if we need to adjust those for being across the border. And that's the only thing you really have to adjust, because the part pricing is going to come in based on your account. So if you log into Reliable Canada, and what you see on that screen is what the system is pulling that information from based on your specific account. Any other questions before we keep going?
Does this integrate into Service Desk?
It integrates into Service Desk, and we have a different kind of integration into ePass, but that is the only two softwares that we currently integrate with.
So everything else would be manually entered if they don't use one of those two?
Correct. You would treat it kind of like if you had a printed book. How would you get that into your accounting or invoicing system? You'd write up an invoice, or you would enter it into QuickBooks, and it works the same way.
Perfect. Thank you.
On those same lines, often I get questions about, oh, can you email this to a customer? Does it take and do accounting? Can you print an invoice? It doesn't do any of that. It's just a pricing guide. The idea here is to help make sure that you're charging appropriately. The other pieces are meant for other software companies to be able to do. So, you know, Rossware, ePass, there's a bunch of them out there that can do that. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go through and break down some of this stuff that's on your screen just so that you know, and the admin of your account can control a good portion of this. So up here at the top, you have pricing source, vendor sites, or Blue Book database. So vendor sites is exactly what that says. You're talking to the live vendor sites, bringing in the information and working in real time with real information. Blue Book database is saved data. So that could be, 8 years old per se. So you want to make sure that you're using live vendor sites anytime you use a part. Now, what if I don't have a part? How do you generate a quote if you don't have a part? Then you look at Blue Book database. And the way the Blue Book database works is basically it's a listing for that brand and appliance type of all the repair jobs that are in there. And then let's say that you're cleaning out a dryer. Let's go ahead and click on that. So we're going to go to Blue Book database, and we're going to show job rates. So what that does is it gives us a drop-down list. Let's say that we're going to clean the blower assembly. We're not replacing it. We don't need a blower assembly. We're just going to clean it. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to add that to this job. Okay. So the system will allow you to do labor only. Other common ones are things like second man. We have to have a second man to remove the wall oven, or we want to charge extra because we bought this big, all dolly, or some other big equipment that is extra and should be compensated for using it because it removes that second man. So you can go in here and in the drop-down list, towards the bottom is where things like the second man is going to be. It's not on a dryer because that's not considered something with a second man. But if we were to switch over to, let's say, a stacked washer and dryer, that may be something that would require a second man. All right. So those are, again, labor only is what you should look at Blue Book database. If you have a part, you should definitely use vendor sites, because if you did the same quote using the Blue Book database, it could be $50 less. Because the data's old, the parts may have been cheaper, 8 years ago, whenever that database was built. Okay. The next thing on the screen is the exempt, where it says exempt here. That's a drop-down list that when you first start the job, you can take and pick from it. In this case, once the quote has been started, it won't let you go back and change it. But what that is that's your sales tax field. So if you charge it based on the state, if you charge it based on the city, if you charge it based on the zip code, this is where you would be able to select that when you're first getting started. The next one here is other charges. And I like to put in ones that abuse me. And so that's why I put them in the cuss charge one is in here. We had one client that decided that if their customers are cussing in front of their employees, they're going to add a $10 cuss charge. And so what they do is they just simply go in and click that, and in the background, it adds $10 to the job. It amused me, so that's why I added this into my demonstration so that you could see it. The next one is an environmental fee, and this one made a lot of sense to me in a couple of reasons. One is if you go into a chain smoker's home, the house is all covered in tar and you can't escape without coming out smelling like an ashtray. before you go to the next customer, you're either going to have to change your clothes or go home and shower, or you're going to end up going into the next customer's home smelling like you've been, 3 packs a day smoker. So the idea here is that there should be a convenience charge added onto that. So we call it an environmental fee. Another good use for something like that is, let's say that you're having to go into a crawl space and you're putting on one of those Tyvek suits or something so that you're not getting covered in dirt or mud or whatever to hook up a water line for a refrigerator. So this is another place to put a little extra into it. You would just click on environmental fee.
And Jack, would this be where, like, let's say it's a far drive, it's outside your service area, somebody's asking you, to come out because they can't find anyone else. Would this be a place to add, an extra trip charge or something like that? Mileage, gas, fuel?
It is. So I actually had that as my third example, zone 2. So let's say that your core work area is anything within 5 miles of your shop, and that's just your base fee. But if you have to go to the next town over, you want to charge an extra $10 or $20 or whatever based on the distance that you're driving. So what you would do is create zones or enter the city names, and attached to each one, you would attach a fixed price. So in this case, I think zone 2 is an extra $20. Let's click on it and see what it does here. Yeah, so it took in the background, it added $25 for that zone 2. Okay, so you can create as many different zones as you need to, and then when the technician's out there, they just click the appropriate box. And again, keep in mind, we haven't built the job yet when we're doing this initially, so we're clicking that zone and it's adding that $25 into the background of this price. Okay, the other thing that you can do in there is you can enter negative numbers. So if you had a coupon, you could enter it in there. Now, I'm going to give you my objection as to why you should not do that. And that is because when you do it, and let's say you have $25 off, and we put that in there and we click on it and we go on and we do the quote and we give the customer the total price, that coupon's already taken off, but the customer doesn't see it. So they're going to be like, yeah, right, sure you did. Okay, so it's much better to show the customer, and when you get ready to do the invoicing, show them the full $407.25 minus $25 coupon, and then you just collect the balance at that point of $382.56 or whatever it is. And that way you are getting credit for that discount, and that's the point of it is if the customers want to see that. They want to know that there is a discount and that it's applied. Okay. The other things on the screen, create next job rate, just clears the screen so they're ready to start the next one. And then if we get down here where it says job name, the system will let you keep this quote for 30 days. It automatically erases it. There isn't any way to change it. It's hard programmed into it. I get a million calls saying, hey, 6 months ago, we created this quote and I can't find it. It's gone. The system erases them. It's gone. I have no way to override that or to change that. Under job name, we just simply enter in the customer's name and hit save. And then scroll down here, and all the jobs that we have quoted today are listed here. You can click show all. The system will keep it for 30 days. It has it by date. So 9/7/2020, the administrator, and it's what I'm logged in as, is the person that gave the quote. If you have 8 different people, it will show each individual person that's logged in, so you know who did the quote. You can also use this for some other helpful information. So let's say that you know that you need to order these parts for Mrs. Smith. You could put in a little -OP save, and without talking to the office, if the parts person knows to go in and look for order part OP, then you've already marked it for them to go in and do that. You could also enter like a job ticket number. And maybe once the quote is accepted, instead of Mrs. Smith, you put in the job number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and save. And so what this is now telling me is this quote was for Mrs. Smith. We need to order the parts and the job was sold. because we entered the customer number. Now, the system is stupid. It doesn't know what any of that stuff means. These are just some potential practices for you to do. And if you want some others, there's a few other things that we could kind of do in there, but you can see some ways that you can be creative. And then your office person can go in and look at all those quotes and see if there's anything they need to order for that day. And again, you've saved the phone call to the office, you've taken, and you haven't had to call the part distributors to see if the parts are available because you already know that they are. The system will give you a red message that says unknown, verify part price if the parts aren't available from your distributors. So that's one of the benefits of this, is to try to give as much control and as little additional communications that you have to do with the part distributors, with the office, et cetera, all in one place. Okay. Let's see here, we've already done all of those. The set code we've already gone over. If you enter something, let's say that after all the customer decides not to do the cleaning, you can simply click remove. It'll make sure, and it will go in and adjust the price back based on that. One of the things that I commonly see is someone will be kind of quick on the button and they'll end up with 2 or 3 of the same part, and then the price seems really astronomically high and they don't understand why. So that's just a quick heads up of something to check, is whether or not you have the correct quantity that you need for this job in here. The right-hand side of the screen here is all customizable to your company. And it all is driven by the type of appliance that you're working on. So the first one we have turned on for every appliance. And again, you can turn them on, you can turn them off, you can delete them, you can customize them, whatever you want to do. This is all controlled by your administrator. In this case, it asks me to inspect any other appliance for $35. Offer expires March 1st. Maybe that is ask me to inspect any other appliance for free. Or maybe it is ask me to inspect any other appliance for 50% off our service charge, or whatever. And maybe it's permanent. Maybe there isn't an expiration date on there. Okay, but you can customize that to say whatever you want it to do. Maybe it's say, ask me how today's service could have been free. And then maybe you offer a warranty of some sort, or a third-party warranty, or whatever that you're getting commissions on selling, because that's just another potential revenue stream for your technicians in the field to be able to just say, oh, and right here I've got a little note to say, to ask you about, if you wanted some kind of warranty, because then it wouldn't have cost you anything for us to come out today. Okay. The next one down is helpful tips. Yes.
I have a couple quick questions. Do you want me to do them now, or you want to wait a second?
No, we can go ahead and do them now.
Okay. Is there any way you can do an example for a part that has not been affiliated with a particular job code? I can give you an example if you want, but the question is, if the office person has never been in the field, how do they know which is the best job code to choose?
Okay, so when you're doing it, you're typically not affiliating to a job code, you're affiliating to a job description. So the idea there would be, if it's a refrigerator door, you're obviously not going to associate that to a belt. So sometimes it's a common sense thing. If they don't know, then they probably do need to stop and ask someone, where a technician in the field would probably know.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
So if you have one, actually, let me complete one more little thing on this screen, and then we'll start a whole new job with the part number that you're asking about.
Okay.
So in this case, the next one is helpful tips and accessories. Again, you can rename it to whatever you want. We just kind of put it in there. And what we're talking about with this one is a dryer vent and dryer vent cleaning, lint buildup, fire hazards, and that kind of stuff. So the idea here was that if you offer the vent cleaning service, or if you do the referral where you send it to some other company that does it and you get a kickback or whatever, the idea here is that you're informing the customer so that they are aware of it. Also, same here is this is proper venting and build up and how you can have a dryer fire, etc. At one point, I don't know if we still do, I had that linked. You probably can't see it, but I had that link to the Consumer Protection Agency's website, to their dryer fire safety page, so that you could actually click on that and show the the customer while you're doing the repair and have them read the fire safety stuff. So it was, it looks like they've changed the website to a different address, but it is something that is you can customize to do that. Currently, the one thing we don't do is we don't allow you to upload your own pictures into the system because it's a way for a virus to get into the system. But it is something, if you needed a custom picture uploaded, we can do it from our end, or you can upload it to your website, and then from your website, you can embed a link into this because there's a way to put HTML code into it. So it would go and grab that picture from your website and drop it in. So a little more advanced, but it's something that certainly can be done relatively easily. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to click on Create Next Job right here. And again, what that does basically is resets our screen. What type of appliance is that, Sarah?
I just have an example of a job code.
Of a job code, but not a part number?
Okay, it's DA97-12663A. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so before I can do anything,
it's a refrigerator. Sorry, it's a refrigerator.
And do we know what brand?
Well, give me 2 seconds while they respond.
Yeah. So we're going to go in and we're going to click on a refrigerator, and we're going to drop into the brand. Seems like I should know that, but that DA looks familiar.
Samsung.
All right, that's what I was thinking. All right, and then we enter the part number, DA97-12663A.
Yep.
All right. So now I'm logging in, and currently I only have day distributing turned on for my part distributors. So if they don't sell it, then that would give us an issue, but they do. So it's a valid part number. It looks like this is for an ice maker. So if it's not already affiliated, what it's going to do is it's going to come in, it's going to say affiliate now. Affiliate now works exactly the same way as change does. So what we do is we click on change, and it gives you the drop down list. So now you just scroll down so you find the most relevant repair to what you're working on. In this case, we want the ice maker, and we hit save. Okay. Once it does that, then it's going to know, oh, based on this part, which we didn't know before we started today, this is now going to be this kind of repair, which is an ice maker. And then we click add. And the total for that, including part, is $488.69.
Okay, so real quick, Jack, so it wasn't affiliated, you affiliated it.
Correct.
Okay.
In this case, it was somebody else has already done that affiliation. Okay. So the way to know whether it was a user affiliation versus a service company solutions affiliation is we won't give you any choices to change it.
Okay.
So it will just automatically be in there as the ice maker, like the igniter was, like the Whirlpool belt was. In this case, this ice maker is a number that is newer than when we associated the Samsung ice maker jobs, and so it's something that on the fly they can create. And what you're doing is we already have the labor in there to put it in, but we don't have the part number. So you're now saying, okay, based on this part number, associate it to this labor.
Okay.
And it's all in real time. As soon as you do that once, it remembers it next time. So you don't have to do it again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Not to change the subject, but another question.
Yep.
Does parts and labor autofill into the service desk receipt page?
So there's two affiliations with Service Desk with our product. One, it is a where it downloads our job, those labor codes that I just, or the labor descriptions that I just gave you or showed you. It downloads that whole database into Service Desk, and then when you enter the part number into Service Desk is calculating the service charge, they're calculating the part markup, and then it's just using our labor codes or our labor rates for the repair. Okay, that's one way that it works. The second way that it works is there is a cart passover option, and I believe it works on everything except for iOS systems, so iPads and phones, iPhones. So in that case, you do the quote here, you go over into Service Desk, you click a button that says retrieve latest Blue Book quotes, and then it brings them over. You select the correct one, and it drops it down into the service desk pricing, and it brings over, and then they kind of cherry pick the pieces. So like additional labors and that kind of stuff, it'll bring all those over and drop them in. Other questions?
I just sent you a part number. I don't know if you can walk through that or if we want to do that offline.
That's a different one than we just did? Okay, yeah, we'll do it.
Okay.
Looks like it's the same kind of refrigerator. So let me just remove this one. And then we're going to update the part price. 972683. And then, nope. Sorry, I have my laptop up higher for being able to present, and it means that my keyboard isn't in a normal position. Okay. Okay, same thing. It's already been affiliated once. In this case, it's been affiliated to different parts or different repairs. So let's use a little drop-down list. So somebody's affiliated this to a door gasket repair, and somebody else has affiliated it to a condenser clean, and then a third person has affiliated it so that they can change to their own rate. So I'm going to click that one just so that people can kind of see what that is. And what it does is when you enter that and you hit add, it drops in a C1, and then you can go in and adjust it to whatever rate you feel like it needs to be, and you hit set code. Not my favorite way to do it, so I'm going to remove that and then pick one of the others. Now, again, I don't know what that actual part is because it doesn't look like a door seal and it doesn't look like a condenser clean. So it may be that it's a type of repair that isn't listed. And when you affiliate those, and it's not something that's listed, what you're going to do is try to find something that is the closest thing to it. So if you have a door latch per se, and you have to disassemble, but hinges are in there, maybe you could associate the labor to the same as what a hinge replacement would be. Okay. So again, I don't know what that part is by looking at it. I do this stuff instead of repair. So maybe if somebody else can type in what that is, maybe there is a better choice in there as to what
they're saying. It's the flapper between the food doors.
Oh, okay. All right. So the door gasket poly is the best. Is probably the best choice. I'm going to close here. So in that case, I would say the door gasket repair would probably be an appropriate repair for that. Okay. Remember, all of these jobs are associated to code. So even though they have different names, they may still be an F12 or a J13 code. So when I add this with the door gasket, it's a J13. So that's a medium easy job. So if that seems appropriate, then whoever associated it to the door gasket would be correct. Other questions?
Not yet.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've gone through the majority of how to use the Blue Book. The admin side of this is a little bit more complicated. And what we do is we tell people, when you sign up for this, plan about 2 hours to go through all the settings. And a lot of people, we get a little grumbling with it, that kind of stuff. I don't want to spend 2 hours, et cetera. But the reality is what you're doing is you're double checking all of the prices and making business decisions up front. That's going to affect every price the system generates. So it should be something that you take great interest in as you're doing it. Which part distributors do you want your parts to come from? Which ones do you want to have priorities? How much should the part markups be? And we give you 4 different options on how to mark up parts in here. You can use just plain suggested retail if that's what you want to. We recommend a little bit more because you're customizing, you're hand delivering these parts to a customer's house. You're taking your time, your inventory, your gas to get those parts to the customer. It's a premium service. You should charge a little bit more. Okay. you can adjust the service charges. We have 3 service charges in our book. It's $94.95 for standard appliances. Standard appliances are domestic appliances. Whirlpool, Maytag, Amana, GE. Those are standard appliances. When you get into higher end, they may migrate up into a premium appliance price or into a boutique appliance price for like pro style built-ins. So the next level premium would be your imports. So if it's an import appliance and it takes a little bit more time to diagnose and it's, you know, it's harder to get parts and that kind of stuff, we charge a little bit more for that. And then the final one is boutique, and that's going to be your really high-end custom stuff. Your Sub-Zeros, Wolf, Viking, Gagano, Miele, some of the Bosch stuff. Some is considered premium, some is considered boutique. Even some of like your KitchenAid built-ins are going to be considered boutique because they're very expensive. Your liability on those are much higher, and even just touching them to diagnose them, you're taking on liability. And so the idea with this system is we're helping to make sure that you're charging and compensating the company appropriately for taking that risk. Okay. Other questions on how to use the program?
Nothing yet.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to show you real quick the admin side. So to get out of this, and only when you're logged in as the admin can you see the admin side. Users can never get to the admin side of your account. So we're going to click on part search, and then I'm going to click on customer panel. And under customer panel, what we have is the blue bar turns into a new navigation panel for the administrator of your account. Items to buy is if you want to buy printed books or training videos or whatever. That's all under items to buy. We're not getting into that. Under users menu, this is where you can add all of your different users in the company. Okay. Now, if you're using My Parts Help and someone doesn't need to have the Blue Book, you can make it so that they have access to the My Parts Help side, but you turn off the Blue Book, and then you don't have to pay for an extra user just so they can look up parts. Okay, that portion is included with your package. But if they do get access to the Blue Book, then you pay the per user fee, which is currently $12 per month per additional user. Pricing on the program is $149.95 setup charge, $29.95 a month, including the first user. Each additional user is $12. And while we're partnering with USA right now, probably I'll go ahead and keep it on for the next week, we have that setup charge 50% off, or $74.95 instead of $149.95. So that's just a perk for the USA members who could join us on the call here. So we're not publishing that. We're not sending out emails saying, "Hey, everybody, come do this." So it's a nice perk for you guys. If you want the printed books, which we talked about in the earlier session, order those directly through United Servicers website, and they have a United Servicers discount. And I apologize, it's United Appliance Servicers Association. It'll always be United Servicers to me, but they have a $30 discount to the Blue Book, but you have to buy it through their website. If you go directly to ours for the printed books, you will not get that discount. So that's exclusive to them. Okay, so we're gonna go in here, vendor setup. So in the vendor list, you click add, you can see what I already currently have set up in here. I've got several of those turned off just so that we're not waiting on those to load for the demonstration, but I can turn them all back on easily just by clicking on the name and say is active. But you can add vendors. So besides the ones that were there, here's a list of all the different part distributors that participate in our system. So you have access to the majority, I would say probably 90–95% of appliance parts distributors who are more than one location are certainly in here. So sometimes there's a mom and pop that doesn't, or resellers are not in here. So I know that I think it's Marcone has a reseller program where you can turn your own shop into like a Marcone store type of thing and sell parts that way, but they're all buying them through Marcone. So we don't allow those in our system. You're looking at Marcone direct as opposed to a reseller in the system. Okay. Inventory, if you want to connect your inventory, like I said, it's something that's pretty easy to do through Service Desk or through ePass. The nice piece of that is then it's all automated. So when you invoice a customer and you sell a part, it takes it out of the inventory and it updates our system. If you do it manually with like an Excel spreadsheet upload, then you have to do that and you have to update the data manually on your own. So it works best if you're connected to one of the softwares which can do that for you, but it is an option. We have it in here. One of the other things that you can do is if you have old inventory that you want to try to sell off to other servicers, you can actually upload that and make that available for them to purchase. I say that. You can't purchase through our website, but you get the information out there so they know where to go to get it. So you two, we introduce you and then we walk away and you guys figure out the details with that. Account management, the basics with that is where your credit card is, whatever you're subscribing to, copies of your invoices and the details on the company. Technician presentation is where you enter your sales tax setups. So let me show you that real quick because that was a question earlier. So in here, I've got a few set up, but you add a tax record, and where it says state, that can be any name. It doesn't have to be specifically state. It can be a zip code, a city, a state, just some kind of naming convention, and you can pick it. So we can just put in test. And then you can add sales tax. And what you have to remember to do is to convert your percentage to a decimal point. So 7% sales tax would be 0.07. Because I'll go through here and help somebody set it up, and then when we're all done, their $200 job is $1,300 because they did it 7 times the price. So just so you know it. So you can base that on whether or not you have a labor, service charge, and parts, or any one of those. So if you're only charging on parts, you just set the others to 0.0 and hit add tax. If you want it to automatically default to this number, you would just click is default, and it would make that the default setting for tax. If you have multiple taxing jurisdictions, my recommendation is either set it to the highest tax or the most common tax rate. And that way, if a technician forgets to add the tax, it's doing it and you're not underpricing it. Now, marketing and sales tax. When you are charging sales tax, let's say that you're in an area that your taxes are much higher. Let's say it's 10, 11, 12% sales tax. Does it make more sense to you from a marketing standpoint to say, okay, your job is $38, or does it make more sense to say your job is $29.95 plus tax? And in most of those jurisdictions, what we find is most of us are accustomed to seeing $19.95 plus tax at the store. And so when you add that in, it automatically inflates your price to the customer, and it has nothing to do with you. It's the government taxing on top of it. So from a marketing standpoint, I like to tell people if you have to tax on the whole job, sometimes it's easier to sell it for $199.95 plus tax than it is to sell it for $229 with tax. And just something for you to consider. It's an individual basis. If you have questions on it and you're signed up, you can always call me and I'm happy to talk to you on a one-on-one basis with that. Now, if you're charging parts only and not charging for the others, then I definitely recommend that you set up the tax in here, because then you're not having to break out the part and all that. And you certainly don't want to do that in front of the customer. One of the things that I normally tell people when they're doing their quotes with this is the customer comes up and they say, well, how much is the part? So let's take a look at 2 things with that. Why do they want to know? And are they going to go run to the internet to look to see what you're charging them for the part, which is really what most people do. So what we do is we try to teach you guys and your technicians to show to the customer, well, here's the total price. I'm sure there is some factor in the price that the system calculates for that part, but we don't sell parts, we sell service. If you were to go to our parts department in our store, it would be, you can buy parts there and it's at a different price than what we hand carry these parts out to you for. So the system just uses it as a factor. It's one of our costs of doing business in this repair. So our total job has that part included, but we don't break that down. Now, The reality is, yes, you could. If you really want to, if you want to have that fight with your customer, go right ahead, but we don't recommend it. So the example to give the customer to overcome that is, we look at it as if you're going out to a restaurant for a, okay? You saw the price was $28.95 for the dinner. So does the baked potato or does the actual wholesale price of the steak matter at that point? Either you're willing to pay the $28.95 or you're not. And same thing kind of applies here. All they're trying to do is to figure out a way to beat you up on the price on the part. And reality is, the parts is not the profit margin, the profit center of your repair. So why take that fight on? Okay, other questions?
I do.
Okay.
Online, when I just sent our webpage out for the Blue Book, how do they do the online version?
Repeat that one more time.
Okay, so if you go to unitedservicers.com/the original Blue Book,
Yep.
it only has the paper version options there. How do they sign up for the online version?
So for the online version, because it's a subscription based and we have to be able to process the credit cards, you have to go to our website. So you go to, and you can go to any of them. You can go to mypartshelp.com, appliancebluebook.com, servicecompany-solutions.com, and there is a place where you can purchase. And then it's going to have you register for an account if you don't have one. You don't have to have one for each individual product. So if you're using My Parts Help, that's the same account. Once you get to that account and get everything all signed up, under account management, there's a subscription tab, and you just change it from the My Parts Help Basic, which is free, to the Deluxe. The Deluxe includes everything, but it's the same price as just the plain Blue Book. So you can do the Blue Book, or you can do the Blue Book that plus My Parts Help Premium, which is the inventory feature and all that kind of stuff. And those are all the same price.
But how do they apply the discount for the setup?
I've got it turned on right now automatically, so when they go through the checkout process, they'll see it says $74.95 instead of $149.95.
Perfect. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the same with the printed book. You want to go to United Servicers for that, and whenever they do the processing, the $30 discount is already taken off on those books in their shopping cart. So, okay, couple of last things real quick. Under Blue Book, we drive the whole thing using pricing templates. So that's where your service charges are set. That's where your part markups are set. So under the part markup, you can do it off of retail or you can do it off of cost. Our suggestion is retail, and you can call me later if you'd like me to explain our thinking behind that. When I invite you guys to call me, there's no obligation. We're not a pressure kind of company. If we can help you make more money, help you be more profitable, that's the idea. And then ultimately we become a good resource for you. You can market it with no markup. That would be just plain suggested retail. Simple markup, let's say that you just want to do 10% or 15% straight across the board. You can set a simple markup for that. You can also do the service desk model, which is a sliding scale or a bell curve for, if it's a cheap part, it marks it up a high percentage. If it's an expensive part, it marks it up a low percentage. And then the last piece is the tiered model. And the tiered model says, hey, from 1 cent to $10, mark it up this amount. And then from $10.01 to $15, mark it up this amount, et cetera. And you create your own levels and your own percentage of markup on each item, each level. Okay, so that's the templates. The nice thing is, let's say that you go in here and we click on cooking, right there. Here is how we apply those templates to every one of the categories. So we have Amana in here as standard and Bosch in here as premium. Maybe you do so much Bosch work, or probably a better example would be maybe you do so much Samsung work that it's no longer considered a premium appliance to you. It would be a standard. You can simply go in and override and change that from a premium appliance down to a standard, and it's going to use the standard service charge. It's also going to use the standard part markup, which in many cases is the same, but it may not be. So that's what you have to remember, is it applies both of those pieces of the template to your to your thing. So you can change them to match whatever you want. It's also doing it by category. So let's say that Samsung cooking you consider standard, but Samsung laundry equipment you consider premium. So you could leave the laundry equipment at premium and change the cooking to standard. So it has a lot of customizations, and this is a little more advanced. Most people just leave it alone, but if you want to, you can really drill down and customize this much, much more for your individual company as you do that. The last thing I want to show you in this category under Blue Book is the labor codes. So everything we do has 3 components in every job. You have a service charge, you have a part with markup, and you have a repair code. And currently we have 10 repair codes in the system. From a C1, I walked in, I turned a screwdriver, I need to charge something, which is $39.95, up to an X20, it's a sealed system. It's $630 for the sealed system labor, plus parts, plus fittings and refrigerant and all that kind of stuff goes on top of that. But this is the labor piece of just doing the sealed system repair. Okay, and so they all vary. Everybody goes, well, you know, can you give me time blocks for these? Because they're trying to wrap their head around time and materials. And the idea is not really, because a job that takes exactly the same amount of time on 2 different types of appliances aren't charged the same. So a dryer and a refrigerator repair that take the same amount of time to do, we're going to charge more for that refrigerator because our liability is so much greater on that refrigerator. You have food spoilage, you have potential of a pinched water line, scratched floors, damaged cabinets, you know, the list just goes on and on. So you've got to be able to charge a little bit more to help compensate for the insurance that you have to have in place to cover that refrigerator. Okay. Also, it may take more tools, more training, a more experienced technician that works on the refrigerator versus the dryer. And so you have to be able to charge more to compensate for that. So the way that I try to explain this to people is C1 is the simplest of jobs. An F12 is more like an easy job, such as a Whirlpool dryer belt. That's an F12, okay? It's a really easy job. And then they get progressively more difficult. So it's not based on whether this takes you 5 minutes or 5 hours. It's based on how complicated is this job. I have to disassemble every screw that's in this appliance in order to get to this one part. That's going to be a complicated job. That's going to fall down towards the bottom of a U18, a W19, or something of that. So don't look at them as time. Look at them as complexity and liability of the job. And that's what we've done and assigned those labor codes to each job individually. Okay, we've already done that for you. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you have a second, we have a couple questions.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, one is, how do you link your inventory?
How do we rank it?
Link. How do you link your inventory?
Okay. So if you're in the software packages that I mentioned, you would contact Service Desk or ePass and have them turn on that functionality in their programs. And then it will take, and there's a few things you have to set up on our side as well. And then it will take and automatically talk through it. We have instruction PDFs that we can send you when you get to that point on how to do it. I don't have a copy of Service Desk or ePass to show it to you. If you don't have those, then you have to create an Excel spreadsheet. We have a very specific template for that. It has to be done a very specific way or the system will reject it. And my recommendation, if you're going to do that, is do like 20 items and stop. Upload it, make sure it works, because there's nothing more frustrating than spending 20 hours on a spreadsheet and then you try to upload it and it doesn't work. So just do a few items, make sure it's working, then do your whole inventory and then upload it. And then you'll need to maintain that inventory on that Excel spreadsheet so that you can re-update like once a week so that the inventory doesn't become stale.
Perfect. Is there any way you can show how to do pricing when there are 2 or 3 appliances that need repairs?
Yeah, so there isn't a way to show you per se. But what I would tell you is you treat each appliance as its own job, okay? Because the system doesn't know, hey, I'm doing 3 different, once you assign it, you're assigning a specific appliance and brand. And so you can't really add the heating element of the oven into that dryer repair. So you have to create a new one. What you can do is create a second appliance discount. And that's what we were showing. Hey, ask me to inspect any other appliance for $35. So if it was $95 regularly and it's $35, what you do is do a second appliance discount of minus $60 in that other charge category. And you can go in and just start by adding that second appliance. It's going to remove $60 out of the total price, and then you just do that quote. So you'll have to run, if it's 3 appliances, you're going to have to run 3 separate quotes, and then just remember to turn on that appliance discount as you do it, so it lowers that service charge.
No more questions on this end, Jack.
Okay. If you guys have questions, feel free to call me. Our toll-free number is 877-877 again, 8635. Again, 877 twice, 8635. Option 1 gets you directly to me. So whenever it answers, if you just push the number 1, you're going to get me or my voicemail if I'm on the phone with someone else.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jack. What a great webinar. We had a lot of participation, a lot of questions.
Awesome.
Thank you for everyone that attended. And if you are still interested in purchasing, you haven't already purchased Bluebook, you can go to our website, which I put in the chat. If you have any questions, call Jack, myself, and I'll get you to Jack if you didn't get his phone number, his email. So everybody, thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.